Welcome to another video where we'll be painting this M8 Greyhound in 15mm scale from Battlefront, who also makes Flames of War. Resin, white metal, models, miniatures, 50 cal. Details look fine, it's a very small vehicle as you can see compared to my fingers. And after a quick spray with Chaos Black from Games Workshop, it looks glossy but it'll dry more matte. But the issue is with superglue you get superglue lumps like this and a couple of gaps that we need to look after, and after a short while of sandpaper and some putty it looks quite good. I'll be painting with my olive drab mix, which is 50% Tamiya buff and 50% Tamiya olive drab, using leveling thinner and an airbrush. Makes for some really smooth airbrushing. The biggest problem with Tamiya's olive drab is that it's very dark and too dark for most of the World War II vehicles. So we're just airbrushing it carefully, smoothly, and making sure it looks good. Now, to make this vehicle pop more on the table, we'll be using color modulation technique with buff and maybe some added white too. The trick here is that you want to make the panels sort of pop, and we're just spraying underside. We can see that it's a lighter shade but not too bright. We use some cardboard here and we just cover up where panels change angle and stuff. We just lightly try to airbrush down from the top just to make that sharp kind of highlight. It looks very sharp, but we'll mute it down later with some weathering. And then we just go over the entire vehicle, trying to make some variation in the shades of green. It's important to note that with color modulation, the point isn't to have it brighter at the top where the light hits and then darker at the bottom. Keep that in mind though, but mainly we're just trying to break up the drab, olive drab, I guess. What I'm trying to say is that we just don't want to make it look like a solid block of green. We want it to look like there's some form of variation going on here. We'll of course do the same to the turret. I can also add that this is the Harder and Steenbeck Evolution, a limited edition by Squidmar, a pretty good YouTuber. And here we can see the result, and you can see that it sort of looks more alive, sort of. And the next step is just painting up all the details. Here I'm using probably Vallejo rubber black for the wheels. Also important to paint the taillights, otherwise people will crash into you when it's dark. And carefully painting the various tools on top of the vehicle. Usually these were all painted green too, but it's nice to have some variation. Then I go over very raised areas with an even brighter shade of green, and this is just to make the raised areas pop a lot more with a very solid highlight. For the miniatures, I paint the helmets a dark green and their jackets I paint a beige color, and then I go over with a basic skin tone. I also paint the 50 cal back here, and I lightly dry brush it with some gray, and then I use strong tone, and I think this kind of gives it like a metallic feel without being too metallic, because these weren't, I mean, they were solid steel, but they had a bluing on top. I go over the helmets and their jackets with soft tone, and then their face with flesh wash. And then I highlight it again with the same color that I used on the base, and I also do that on the face. And then I gloss the entire model with Vallejo Premium Gloss Varnish. This will help seal the coat, but will also protect it for the next steps. Here we have a decal sheet from Skytrex, and these decals, they're horrible, but they work. Like, if you get it on, they work. I will use a lot of microsol and microset to basically settle the decals in. And here I cut around the wide silvering film that's around the decal, and I just use a lot of microsol here, and then a toothpick that I try to just push it into the crevices. And being patient here is key, because you just want to soften the decal without tearing it, and you just go over pass after pass after pass after pass. And I think I used like 20 passes of microsol here, but eventually it's settled in, and you can see here that it looks painted on. Applying decals could be its entire video, right? But here we see all the decals on, registration numbers on the side back, and the unit numbers on the rear here. And then I use panel line accent color to do a pin wash over the model, and this will enhance the details a lot more. This is just applied on it. The gloss varnish will help the pin wash flow into all the recesses. And since this is an enamel wash, I can also go over and readjust it almost till eternity. So I'm not too picky about getting it exactly where I want. I'll rather apply too much. And then with a odorless white spirit, I use a cotton bud and just to wipe over, reactivating the pin wash after having let it dry for maybe 30 minutes. And this just wipes it straight off, and you can be kind of rougher because we have that protective gloss varnish layer underneath. And I also painted this Space Marine at the same time, inspired by a World War I French camo that I used on tanks, and I think it kind of turned out pretty well, painted for a friend over in the States. You can also use the thinner with a brush and just go in and just be picky about it. Afterwards we're going to seal this in, and it's very important that we have the result we want. Done a layer of gloss. Now we're going to go over with matte varnish. This is the Vallejo Premium one. And right in front of our eyes, the gloss disappears, making it look as it should. We'll also give the Space Marine a little coat, making him look better and protected so he can survive the transport to the US. Here we're painting chips, and we're doing that with a brighter color. And you can see how the pin wash kind of accentuates the details, whereas the color modulation kind of breaks up the green color pretty well. And here we just go over where there would be wear around crew access areas like hatches and the engine deck and the side where things may be scraped along it. We don't want to overdo it. I think I kind of overdid it on this one, but it looks good and I gave myself a thumbs up. So next I go over with light dust on the wheels and the lower end of the hull. and just smear it on where dust would accumulate. This is an enamel wash, so we can go over and reactivate it with the same thinner and the same technique we did. So I'm just smearing it on and then rather adjust it in a bit, which is right here. You can also do some downward streaks to sort of make it look like maybe rain has washed off some of the dust. And we just keep doing this till we get a result we're happy with. And since this is the final step, let's see the end result. And that's how I painted my 15mm M8 Greyhound. Hope you enjoyed.